Good morning, everybody. I felt very inspired to make this video for you today because the potted garden, the container garden, is beginning to grow in a sort of very abundant way, in much the same way as the 3 acres here have grown. There seems to be little bits of magic happening at night. When I come out in the morning, it just looks bigger and more lush. So this video is all about growing in pots and containers and how to do so successfully and how to recognize the signs in all your plants when repotting is needed, when feeding is needed. Let's delve into it. So this is a little bit of an update on my container garden. I continue to add to the pots. It's an ever-growing garden and a movable feast. So as some plants flower, I can bring them to the fore, and as others lose their flowers and begin to leaf out, I can put them into the background. You can see the Pieris there, which is a beautiful plant, very underestimated actually. And one of the benefits of having these plants in containers is that you can be very specific with the soil type. So the Pieris requires acid soil. Now I'll show you a Pieris which is in a pot but actually planted into the ground. Okay, so I haven't actually cleaned up this bed yet, but you can get the general impression of how the Pieris looks with all the new foliage. And it does flower as well. Now it's in this old milk churn, which is actually a bottomless churn. It doesn't have a bottom on it, but all the soil in there is acid soil. And every so often I build up a little bit of acid soil around the base as well. I'll just pull back so you can see that. It's a beautiful shrub. It grows almost like a small tree. So you have this height and elegance. Again, the fact that it's in a container, it's in a pot, means it can be potted on as it grows until you get it to a stage where you can then put it into the ground by taking the bottom out of the pot. I'll show you some more around the side of the cottage. Just before we go round to the gable of the cottage, this is another Pieris which is flowering, and you can see those beautiful flowers there. And that's already been potted on. I had that growing in a smaller pot. Now it's gone into a bigger one. Let's go around to the gable. This is the gable end of the cottage on the western side. And I've got quite a few Pieris growing here. Now the variegated ones are absolutely stunning because you have the variegated leaves all the way through. Because they're mostly sort of evergreen. They don't really lose their leaves. This one is in quite a big pot. You can see. I'm very happy there. Now it does need to have a few of the little dead bits cut off, but that's something that I will do later on. And this is a beautiful variegated one. Look at this. And it's in a big pot. And we'll be happy in there actually for quite a few years to come. Another variegated one. You can see how much I love the variegation. And that's in a huge pot. So that'll be in there again for years to come. Now I have another one around here. I'm just trying to find it. Oh no, this is the variegated rhododendron actually. And again, that's in a big pot. Let me just go around the other side of the bench. Look at that big pot there. and it's getting some beautiful buds on it. Stunning flowers on this when it comes out, and it's beside another rhododendron. Again, you see these grow in the shade, and this is the north side of the cottage. There's another little Pieris in here. Again, it's in a pot because my soil here isn't naturally acid soil. There's little pockets of it hither and thither, but it's very hard to determine without doing a soil test. So the potted Pieris does really well. And there you can see this beautiful little, it's a bit more of a miniature Pieris, as you can see from the size of the leaves and the little flowers beginning to come out. This is why I'm beginning to favour container gardening. Because again, you know, it's that beautiful movable feast. You can switch them round, move them round. If something isn't doing too well in a particular situation, you can find the best situation for it. And you can build up a garden that looks really, well, is very natural. Because each plant is quite happy in its situation. So if you look over there beside the porch, all those are in containers, with the exception of the evergreen. And all the way along the front of the cottage, against the wall, containers. And also here, of course, on the gable end. So let's have a look at some more containers. Some of you may remember this tree, which I bought in the garden centre originally as a little Christmas tree, as a little Yule tree, in a pot. And I actually had that indoors and decorated. I think it was about 2 years ago, possibly 3. Anyway, I did bring it outside. I let it sit in its original pot for a while. I fed it and watered it, and then transferred it into this big blue pot. And it's doing really well. And indeed will, at any point I wish, serve as a Christmas tree again. Lovely. Very healthy look. Lots of buds on it. It will drop some of its needles, but look at that. Good growing. So you can see the 2 cordylines in these pots. They've become pot bound, and you can tell because they look a little bit diminished. So it's time to get those out of the pots and into the ground, because I don't think putting them into bigger pots is going to do them for very long. They're very active plants. They grow pretty quickly, as long as they're not decimated by hard frost. And the hard frost would have to be continuous hard frost, by the way. So that's a little job for me to do. Now, where containers are in short supply, because containers can be expensive to buy, but I mean, you can use all kinds of unwanted objects as containers. Here, 2 tires. 2 tires, and I've got the most magnificent, you see, look at this. There's even a bird's nest up there. Look at that. See? And this, of course, is the beautiful and vigorous Clematis montana, growing out of 2 tires, and lots of flower buds coming on there. Look at that. Covering the shed. Look how strong these. Look at that. Amazing. Just from 2 tires. And here you can see the stages of a rhododendron. Now this is one which I bought recently, so I've repotted that into a slightly bigger pot than where it was. And then if you look behind, this is one which is in a bigger pot. And then ultimately, I've got this beautiful one here. Beautiful shape. Very happy in that pot. And lots of fresh buds. Takes about 3 years to get it from this in the little pot to this. And in between, you've got this one. I showed you some lemon balm in the previous video. Well, here's some lemon balm in a pot. And again, it's a cutting. They're very vigorous plants. They grow very easily, virtually in any setting. Very resilient. And will give you lots and lots of lemon balm. The one beside it here is berberis. And forsythia, the same rules apply. Grow them on in pots until you can see they're becoming a little bit pot bound, and then release them. That's when they go mad. So here's some forsythia that I released into the wild earlier. I think this is about 2 years ago. Let's have a look at it. Isn't that lush? And just while we're here, a bay tree growing out of 2 tires and unpruned, allowed to grow in all her magnificence. And again, look at this. Let me just look at the size of these leaves. See? There we go. Look at that. Now, I think there's a bird beginning to nest in it. And of course this little site here at the back of the shed faces into the south, even though on the southern side there's a lot of plants and this beautiful field maple. So continuing with the theme of container gardening, all these plants here, Buddleia, Clematis montana at the back, ribes and ivy, all in tires. So contained in that sense. And then straggling out here at the front, self-seeded, is some beautiful, oh gosh, look at this. Look at this, look. Isn't that lovely? Aquilegia, the beautiful Aquilegia. I love how it holds and the little droplets of rain. A little bit like Lady's Mantle, Acamelia mollis. Yeah. Isn't it beautiful? And again, that has self-seeded in the gravel. There's lots and lots of it around the cottage. That will be flowering in the next month. And I'll be able to show you just all the beautiful colours it comes up in. So you can see more self-seeded Aquilegia here, there, some more on the other side, lots and lots in here in the gravel. And they self-seed so readily and so easily. So I think it's a very productive thing to do when you're creating a container garden or a potted garden, to lay it on a bed of gravel, and preferably gravel that is not sitting on top of a membrane, because you want the gravel and the earth to connect because the gravel warms the earth, and it also is a wonderful place for plants to seed, or for you to scatter seed into, which is what I've done with those 2 boxes of wildflower seed. Do you remember the ones that I bought several weeks ago? Well, I made a point of going round this area, all the way around where the plants are, wherever pots are and plants are. I've scattered lots and lots of wildflower seeds, including around the front of the cottage and the gable. So it'll be interesting to see those come up through the gravel as the season progresses. And last but not least, I often miss out this particular corner of the container garden because I don't know why, it's just I seem to miss it out when I'm filming. So I'll just give you a little run through what's here. So again, cheap and cheerful, in fact 0 cost, 2 tyres. And these come off my own vehicles, by the way. I try to recycle wherever I can. 2 tyres are filled with some earth and planted out with pyracantha and honeysuckle. And you can see the honeysuckle is making a great move vertically up there towards the top. So I'm going to put a little bit of trellis in here so it can kind of ramble along the trellis. Here, this is a very unusual looking little shrub, and it's hard to believe, but it is actually a bay tree, and it's a bay tree that I haven't shaped and I haven't pruned, and I basically left it in this pot, and it's become a little bit pot bound, but it's sharing the pot with some beautiful dog daisies. So it's become a little bit stunted in growth, and because of that, look how tiny the leaves are. Look, compared to my fingernail there. See? That's going a little bit yellow, so I will have to give it a feed. But if you look at that and compare it to my other bay trees that are not pot bound, let me show you. This one is in a pot, but it's in a pot where it's not pot bound. That's a little deer's head that I found in the forest, and I thought it was so beautiful, and I just wanted to bring it home. So yeah, look at this. Much bigger leaves. Let me show you. There's my fingernail compared to the leaf. And not pot bound because you can see there's no yellowing. I'll show you another one. It's growing in a little bed, a little miniature bed, but again you can see the leaves are long, very healthy. This is a little bed that I made literally by just piling up some stones into a circle, putting some earth in, and good to go. I think I'll finish this video with this beautiful viburnum, and that's in a pot, and I must sort of cut off some of the lower branches so the pot's revealed, and a little bit of cloud pruning as they call it. There's another one here that will need to be potted on perhaps at the end of the summer. But this one's quite happy, it's settled in well, and there's the pot. It's got another couple of years left in that pot, I'd say, before it will be taken out and probably planted into the ground.